Rain pounded against the weathered windows of my lakeside cabin. The sky was an angry gray, the wind tossing tree branches like they were fragile toys. I had just settled into my morning coffee when I saw it. Squat and bold, slicing into the shoreline that belonged to me for generations. A dock, not mine, not even close. The HOA had built it, on my waterfront. My heart thudded in my chest, a rhythmic warning. The intrusion wasn't subtle. The wooden planks stretched from their property over mine, nails and bolts staking claim on territory that had never been theirs. I knew every inch of this shoreline. I knew the curve of the sand, the way the water lapped against the rocks. Someone had crossed the line. I grabbed my raincoat and boots, the chill in the air doing nothing to cool my rising fury. The HOA president, a prim woman named Carol, appeared at the far end, clipboard in hand, muttering something about permits and community benefit. Her voice sounded far away, muffled under the roar of the storm. I approached, measured words on my lips, but the truth was loud in my chest. "This is mine," I said simply. Carol smiled, but it was tight and artificial. "Technically, it's a shared space," she said. "The board approved it. Everyone benefits." I knew the board. I knew shared space meant they ignored the law, assumed they could bend reality with signatures and stamps. I didn't flinch. The dock swayed slightly as a gust hit, and I noticed the screws were cheap, the wood soft. This wasn't built to last. It was built to impress. But I had something in mind that would impress them even more. Later that night, I walked the shoreline in the moonlight, my flashlight cutting through the darkness. Each plank, each rusty nail, glinted like a challenge. I ran my hands over the wood. I could dismantle it. I could take it apart plank by plank. And maybe keep it as payment for the audacity of building on my property. There was a subtle thrill in thinking about it. Not violence, not yet, but the calm planning of retribution. They thought they were untouchable. They hadn't counted on me. The storm raged on, lightning slicing the sky like knives, and I felt an odd sense of clarity. Boundaries to be defended, silently and efficiently. Tonight, the dock was theirs. Tomorrow it would belong to me. I started early. Dawn barely broke over the misted lake when I crouched by the dock's edge. Each bolt I removed felt like turning the screws on a secret conspiracy. The HOA had thought they could claim my waterfront without consequence, but every plank I lifted whispered details they hadn't considered. Names scratched into the wood, delivery tags still intact, receipts buried in splintered edges. I documented everything. Photos, notes, even a recording of a conversation I overheard when Carol visited with the contractor. Her words were casual, but the meaning was clear. They'd knowingly trespassed. They had built this as a power play, a subtle intimidation disguised as community improvement. My investigation revealed more. Carol wasn't acting alone. The HOA board had quietly sold access rights to a local marina operator, someone who benefited from docking privileges. The dock wasn't just an eyesore. It was a lever in a small, tight network of influence. At night, I worked in secret, dismantling the dock piece by piece. Each board I removed, each nail I bent and twisted free, was a quiet victory. I stacked materials in neat piles near the trees, almost ritualistically. It wasn't theft. It was payment, recompense for their intrusion. But as I worked, the tension grew. Footsteps in the distance, flashlights bobbing along the tree line. I ducked, heart racing, watching shadows move like predators. They were on to me. Or maybe it was my imagination. Either way, the game had changed. I began to leave subtle traps, loose boards that would creak, ropes that could tangle, silent warnings for anyone foolish enough to step onto my land. The quiet traps felt like chess moves. Every action calculated. Every reaction anticipated. By the end of the week, the dock was half gone, my pile reclaimed with a testament to my patience and precision. And yet, a nagging thought lingered. If they discovered the missing planks too soon, confrontation was inevitable. I had to stay invisible until the timing was perfect. Some nights, I caught myself staring at the piles, imagining Carol's face when she realized the HOA no longer had the upper hand. There was power in patience, in preparation, and I had plenty of both. The town's annual lakefront gala was supposed to be harmless. Wine glasses, polite chatter, and the soft ripple of the water reflecting lanterns. Instead, it became the stage for reckoning. I arrived early, blending in with the crowd, a quiet observer in a sea of well-dressed complacency. Carol floated nearby, clipboard in hand, organizing the event with her usual clip precision. Her eyes flicked toward the shoreline. I knew she was uneasy, even if she didn't admit it. I had left subtle hints. One missing plank here, a slightly askew rope there. Enough to gnaw at her confidence without giving me away. But tonight, the dock would speak louder than whispers. I waited until the mayor stepped onto the small podium, the microphone amplifying the ceremonial calm. Thanks to our dedicated HOA, the waterfront is better than ever, he said. Applause followed, polite and hollow. Carol's smile tightened. That's when I stepped forward. Actually, I said, my voice cutting to the chatter, the waterfront isn't entirely theirs to give. A hush fell over the crowd. Eyes turned. Laughter stuttered, fading. Carol's face paled. I gestured toward the lake. The dock, once bold and intrusive, now leaned precariously, half gone, stripped of its stolen presence. Each plank I had reclaimed leaned against the trees like silent evidence. Every board here, I continued, was built on property that doesn't belong to the HOA. And every bolt, every nail, tells a story they hoped you wouldn't see. Murmurs spread like wildfire. Someone gasped. Carol's lips moved, but words caught in her throat. The contractors, the marina operator. Even a few board members shifted uncomfortably. Their web of quiet deception unraveled in seconds, exposed in the harsh light of public scrutiny. The final straw. I held up a waterlogged, splintered plank with the HOA stamp still faintly visible. This, I said, voice calm but firm, was supposed to intimidate me. Instead, it proves their disregard for the law, their arrogance, and their audacity. Carol finally spoke, voice shaking. You can't just... Actually, I interrupted. I already did, and I kept the materials as payment. Consider it recompense for your trespass. The words landed like stones, heavy and undeniable. Then came the twist. A sudden crack. A plank I had secured for dramatic effect gave way under a decorative rope. Lanterns swayed. Wine glasses clinked, and a splash echoed across the lake. The crowd jumped back. The spectacle, unplanned but perfect, was a physical punctuation to the legal and moral truth I had laid bare. The tension snapped. The marina operator muttered curses. Carol's clipboard slipped from her hands, and the board scattered like startled birds. Meanwhile, I stood on solid ground, calm, collected, intelligent, unshaken. The center of the storm I had choreographed with precision. By the time the mayor tried to restore order, the public had seen everything. The theft, the arrogance, the reckoning. I smiled faintly, letting the chaos do its work. The HOA had underestimated me. And now, everyone knew it. The morning after the gala, the lake was calm, almost serene, as if nothing had happened. But the shoreline bore the scars of the night's reckoning. The dock was gone. The piles of reclaimed wood neatly stacked, a silent testament to what had been done. I stood on the edge of my property, breathing in the crisp winter air, the water reflecting the soft pink light of dawn. The town buzzed quietly with gossip. Carol had submitted her resignation from the HOA. Her perfect composure shattered. The board scrambled to cover their missteps, and the marina operator kept a low profile, no longer flaunting access rights that had cost him credibility. Rumors of legal action floated through the streets. But for now, I had no need to engage. The evidence, the truth, and the materials themselves, my quiet trophies, spoke louder than any court could. Neighbors I had long ignored came by, offering hesitant congratulations, curiosity mixed with awe. "I heard about the dock," one muttered, glancing at the wood stack like an art installation along the tree line. "You really showed them." I smiled faintly, letting them fill in the rest. Some things were better left unsaid. I walked along the edge of my property, running my hands over the planks I had dismantled. Each piece was a reminder of boundaries defended, of patience exercised, of justice served without shouting or violence. It felt satisfying, but not entirely complete. There was always a cost, always a shadow. Late that evening, I returned to the water's edge with a flashlight. Something caught my eye, subtle, almost imperceptible. A reflection in the lake, not from the moon, not from my cabin lights. A small boat, unmanned, tied loosely to a distant pier, its engine silent but ready. The marina operator had retreated. Yes, but someone else had noticed. Someone had been watching, learning. A chill ran down my spine. I had won this battle. Dismantle the dock, reclaim what was mine, and expose the HOA. But the lake, once a private sanctuary, now felt surveilled. The rules had changed. The calm after the storm carried a quiet threat, a whisper that the game was far from over. I stacked the last pieces of wood, double-checking my work. Each nail, each splinter, each beam was cataloged and stored. The shoreline was mine again, but I knew the world outside would not forget so easily. In the distance, lights flickered on the other side of the lake. Shadows moved. A figure, watching, smiling faintly as if the night's events were merely the opening act. I didn't know their face, didn't know their name, but I felt their presence, the invisible line that had been crossed in reverse. They had learned from the dock. I turned back to the cabin, the wind whispering through the pines. For now I was safe. For now I had clarity. But as the darkness deepened, one thought lingered. Some enemies don't reveal themselves immediately. Some battles are only the prelude. The lake gleamed in the moonlight, calm on the surface, restless beneath, just like the world I had entered. And I knew, without doubt, that I wasn't done yet.